Hello, PCG casuals. It's Tehnoobcake, and with me, as always, is Slanderman.
Hello, everyone.
And with us for the first time is Ricktator. Welcome, Ricktator.
Hello.
Today we're going to be talking about the Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, just in general, like all the stuff that's been released from it, from the first viewing, and everything that we've got as new information for FanFest. Ricktator, before we get into it, would you like to tell people what it is you do on your channel?
Certainly. As he mentioned, my name is the Ricktator. I'm a part-time gamer, full-time dad. Primarily, we play a variety of games on my channel through Twitch, and I do a lot of reactions through YouTube. But it's a very, I guess, RPG and Final Fantasy focused channel. I recently came into, I guess, Final Fantasy XIV as being a lifelong fan, with Final Fantasy VII being my all-time favorite game. About a year ago, and since then I let's just say I've lost my life at that point. But long story short, just very vibe community over there. We just hang out, enjoy all sorts of video games. But on the, like I said, my YouTube channel is more reaction stuff to my first experiences towards things, and then we chill Monday through Thursday on Twitch to kind of hang out and play the game, discuss theories and raids, and watch me get really screwed over on raids at that point as well. So stupid mechanics in the near raid, I swear, they get me every time.
As a personal watcher, I know you as the floor mage.
I am the best floor mage on the Primal Data Center. I will go ahead and claim that to fame. So
before we get into it, I'd like to remind our viewers, obviously, because I've been putting it at the end of our videos and it's not been really, people lack the patience to stay till the complete end. So if you like our content, please subscribe, please like the video, and of course comment. We are always up for chatting to anyone who's willing to comment on our videos. Other than that, though, we will get right in. We're going to watch the trailer for all of those who haven't actually seen it, and Rick is going to passively listen because he'd like to save his reaction.
Sorry, I'm saving it for my community, but for the most part, I kind of understand what's going to happen. But like I said, I'll listen. Or I may just mute. I haven't decided that yet. So
Just let me know.
You're ready when you are, Sandy.
Okay, I'm gonna start it now then.
All right. I don't know if you can hear it or not, Rick.
I cannot. So I'm good. I'm good there. I'm good. I will sit here and look handsomely pretty.
Yes.
With the best beard of the three.
You're too kind. Not gonna lie, it's really hard not to look at it right now.
Oh, I don't know how you've gone this long without watching it at all. Thankfully, if you did catch a glimpse right now, all you'd see is the stuff that's in the original teaser trailer.
Makes sense.
And in my reaction video, I told everyone I'd probably have watched this like a billion times. I have. I've watched it primarily every morning. I wake up, I watch the Endwalker trailer, and then like at night, I'll try to see what new reaction videos are currently on it about it.
Fan Festival would fall the week I'm on vacation, so I'm on day like 10 of not seeing it at this point.
That's like self-torture right there.
It is. Subpar masochist, that's what it is.
Well, explain why you were floor mage. Don't know who in their right mind would pick black mage as a raiding job.
It's the first one I started with. I've always been a tank, so I was like, I'm gonna go DPS.
And I've had enough of this rot.
Speaking of DPS, Alizé.
I will say that, depending on what part of the trailer it was, I cannot wait for the Sage job.
Oh, yeah. As someone who's been after another healer besides White Mage, Sage is looking like it for me. Because I can get into Astrologian, but I cannot do Scholar for the life of me. It's not that I can't physically play it, I just don't enjoy it.
It's all or nothing.
It's hard to not say out about the trailer when you're not watching.
Hey, y'all talk about, like I said, I kind of know the gist of what happens, but y'all discuss what you want to talk.
I'm assuming you've got to 5-5 at least for knowing who Fandango is.
Certainly, and that rugged piece of trash that I've hated since Stormblood.
You hate Xenos.
No, not him. The Fandango body, basically the host. I can't stand.
Asahi.
He is the worst. The absolute.
I'm loving that they added the. I don't know if you've heard the actual song itself, but they added "Torn from the Heavens" into the theme as well.
Yes,
And
I've heard snippets. It's
every single song with "From the Heaven" in it is just the most gorgeous song. It's such a good soundtrack.
so good, man. He's a genius.
Yeah, I was
Honestly,
really.
I wish he and Okabe could do every soundtrack, especially after the Nier raid. Like, their collaboration was incredible.
I'll be honest, as a bit long time fan of Final Fantasy, when like they were like saying a new name that wasn't Nobuo Uematsu, I was like, nah, no one's allowed reigns of music besides him. And then I've grown to love Soka. Like, what a person to hand the reins to. And Charlea looks just gorgeous. The design of it is so pretty. I don't think you've seen it either, have you?
I've seen a few images.
Seen the art, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the art from it, and it's interesting on a lot of where they went with that, especially with the spiral setups, considering what that normally implicates.
Yeah. And I've always had the theory, like, ever since a long time ago, that the Asians are somehow involved with Charlea. These people who have, like, all the freaking knowledge in the world, like, And it's something that actually interested me from the trailer that, despite the fact that they have all the knowledge in the world, they don't have a complete map, which means they're at the same level of us. Xenos is just looking so good in this trailer. Like, I love Xenos as a character in general, unlike most people in the West world. But him in like the actual CGI trailer looks really good.
Oh, can't wait. I already had a feeling he weapon, considering the new job and everything else.
Yeah, although his is a little more unique to him than
which I would assume you're probably going to be able to get for some land, possibly.
It's like if I ever had a hammer class, we'd better get Nero's hammer from Praetorium.
God, that'd be great.
I've been waiting for it my whole life.
I see out of the corner of my eye the end of it now, and it was the moon situation. And I just personally, I still get major Final Fantasy IV vibes from it.
Oh yeah,
and I just, hey, it has me guessing a lot at where they may go with some of the story, especially with them. It's almost, if you think about it, from Shadowbringers to Endwalker. Sorry, I don't want to jump in anything, but going almost like the story of Cecil, you're going from a Dark Knight into a Paladin again as redemption at that point, but it makes you question what may happen to twins as what happens. So
the twins are like my favorite two scions. So when I realized it was full themed, I was like, oh, bugger.
Yeah, it's going to be, I have a feeling that Endwalker it's going to be rough.
Oh yeah, well,
many a tear will be shed.
I forget the name of the woman who's writing, the one who wrote Shadowbringers. I'm really ashamed of myself. I don't remember the name, but she's always said, for everything good we get, we're gonna lose some as well. Like, that's the way she writes. So knowing she's the writer for Endwalker, that terrifies me.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see what happens. But anyways, I'll let y'all discuss kind of your feelings on things, and like I said, I'll kind of chime in as necessary.
Well, it's hard because I don't want to like spoil it too much for you, because
discuss like I said, I know a lot of what it covers. I know Estinian's in there. I know you hear a lot of Heavensward for there. You see the Charlan area. You see one of the new hubs that you're going to be. So like, I know where it's going. I just don't know visually and the thematically where it goes.
Okay. Well, obviously, to begin with, we know the beginning is he's walking on the moon in the everyone's donned as his like Asian get-up, which is quite intriguing. I don't know whether that means we're going to find out more about him being the warrior light being Azim, which is a big story point that I'm actually really interested in. So to find out more about that would be great.
Yeah.
Then it moves into the part in Lenoskea with Alizé fighting the I always forget the name of them, but they're bosses from Realm Reborn. We've had them for ages.
Yeah.
And Tanabanga or something like that.
They're also found during the Sundering and everything.
Yeah, which is actually another point that's really interesting. Is the fact that a lot of the monsters look like terminal beasts.
Yep.
I don't know if you've finished if you've seen full terminal beast yet, Slandy, because you've actually. So to note that Slandy hasn't actually finished all the way of Shadowbringers. He's only done to 5.0. He's not done the patches.
Oh, buddy, you got a ride ahead of you.
But he's not too fussed about too many spoilers. But I don't think there's a lot that will really too much influence that. Besides, maybe obviously everything to do with Elidibus, which was just great story writing in general.
Very, very good. Very well done.
One of the things I'm interested to see is Estinian with Vitra, and someone tried correcting me in the comments of my trailer reaction because I said, "Oh, is that Hraesvulgar?" And obviously, it doesn't look anything like Hraesvulgar when you see him, but that was just my reaction at the time. And as someone who's actually a big lore nerd myself, it's interesting to me that we've got Vitra. And what's really curious about that is if we'll see the other dragon whose name is really just everything's escaping me right now. But there's one more dragon that we actually haven't got a clue where they are because we've seen.
Oh, I know you're talking about, and it's bothering me now that I can't think of the name. Dang it!
But there's 7 dragons who came with Midgard from the Dragon Star, and we know what happened to Hammer. Tiamat, obviously, we dealt with recently, which was just fantastic. I've always loved ever since I've played Heaven's Ward. Her just sitting in Azizla has bothered the hell out of me. But my big curiosity is obviously Estinian recently has bonded with Tiamat, and we know now that the reason that he can do that is because he's got Nidhogg's blood in him and his thoughts and that. So I'm wondering if him being with Ritra has to do with Nidhogg again and how he's gone and found him, and if that's to do with him being able to track the first brood due to Nidhogg.
And that very well could be the case, especially with his history with everything, and it actually would make sense too, considering his story since Heavensward. And if you really, I mean, from what I've seen, especially in 5.5, it almost seems that his power is continuing to increase. And of course, I know he is like the dragoon of all dragoons and just an absolute, awesome individual. But if you think about it, just his relationship with the dragons, his history with the dragons, and him being able to almost like unite everything and bring it full circle to the end of this whole story, I think would make total sense. And I think Nidhogg is playing a large role in that personally, or at least the blood lineage within him at that point.
Yeah,
almost like Ezael at that point too, with Shiva and everything.
And it's definitely interesting that we have Estinian as a scion, which is in a way it's a kind of at last kind of situation.
Yeah,
but the fact that he's joined in Endwalker, which is so heavily Final Fantasy IV themed, Kane vibes much.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I mean, I don't see any major Kane situations. I think that was more of in Heavensward kind of thing.
Yeah.
But as far as the untapping of his power and everything else, I think that in Endwalker it's gonna be super anime boss awesome kind of situation.
Well, the interesting thing about him joining us as well is the fact that obviously the Scions are, they're strong individuals, but they're considerably weaker than the Warrior Light. Whereas Estinian has been much closer to our power level ever since Stormblood, because he obviously took out the cannon and that lot. So it's interesting to have another Scion because obviously Graha's quite powerful, but now
Graha's there
too.
Yeah, and then I mean, you think about even back during Shadowbringers with Gaius, even when he and Gaius were teaming up, it was almost like there's your power couple while the Warrior of Light's gone at this point. Because literally, I mean, they're the only two. I do agree, they're the only two close to it at this point, or from what he can outside of Xenos.
Oh yeah, well, Xenos is a complete other matter anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
As a fan of his, I'm definitely and not just in the fact of like his power level or him being our enemy, but I'm interested to find out more about Xenos as a character because my running theory that I've had for a little while now, ever since we found out what he knows about the end days, is that Emmett actually successfully created a false, because obviously we know that our souls are fragmented because of the Sundering. I reckon Xenos is a full soul, and that's why he's so ridiculously powerful.
I could say that's actually a good theory. That would be very interesting to see. Another thing that I've thought as well, Xenos sees us as his equal, as the Warrior of Light, I should say, is his equal, and he wants to be around the Warrior of Light. One is a challenge. It's almost like a Nero and Sid situation. It's a weird theory, but deep down, I feel like Xenos somehow will like betray Fandaniel and end up like on our side, is almost like a Vegeta kind of situation. Personally,
I've kind of seen that myself. I've always said to everyone that I feel like he's going to be like the Shadow, the Hedgehog, start as a villain, become a kind of anti-hero at your side.
Yeah,
I don't think we'll ever be like eye to eye with Xenos. Like, I feel like it's still going to be something we're going to fight. But I've always considered that Xenos won't just die. Like, I don't believe I'd do that as a character.
Because his biggest thing, he just wants to be challenged. I mean, it's just he wants to have that level there. And now that he's found it and he's calling you his best friend, I mean, it's just like, okay. But that's been one of my running theories with what's going to happen and how it may end up. And it'd be awesome if it does end up turning that way.
Oh, yeah. I know a lot of the Westworld fans kind of hate Xenos, and I know a ton of people are like, why is he still around? And it's the fact that obviously the Eastworld viewers, the Japanese fan base, they love him. And then like, I think it's very ignorant of us, but many over here think that we're the whole player base. It's like we're not. There's a big Japanese player base, and they love Xenos. So I think he's going to stick around for a while. Getting back to the trailer, I feel like we're going to freaking go off topic tons because I'm going to be out. Obviously, we see Alphino as a sage, which is very interesting if you know the lore behind sages and their involvement with Charlatan. So I am very interested to find out how he makes that transition. And we still don't know particularly why he's making that transition, because that doesn't. The information for that probably won't be revealed till 5.5.5, which we get on Tuesday. So I think that's going to be very interesting to find out as to the reason as why he's no longer being a scholar. Because obviously he's no like novice scholar. He creates his own spells. The Carbuncle has his own spell. So he's really powerful at that job. So it's like, why would he switch when he's that powerful? But that's
my like when I first saw it, I remember in the original teaser trailer, I thought personally that I was like, they got more technology from the Crystal Tower. Thank you, Graha. But I was like, oh wait, they're Charlatan. Like I completely forgot about that whole side of technology that had been tapped into. Because if you look at them, they almost look very crystallized, so it kind of gives it that look, like an X-Art kind of look. So it is kind of interesting why he would change, but at the same time, it could also be to the fact that he feels he's too weak to keep up with the challenge, and he wants to do better, I guess, to protect others. Because I mean, the way 5.5 ended, I could see where they may be leading with that.
And obviously, the other thing is Alize hasn't job changed, which makes me terrified for her. Her personally, I'm really worried for, because obviously they could still do both for twins. But I'm like, in my brain, they've given Alphino a new job. Why would they off him? But Alize's still their rockin' red mage, and it's like.
Personally, I'd rather them get rid of Alphino over Alize. If that was my choice between the two. And I could see them doing Alphino more so than Alize. With the job change is one. My theory of wanting to protect others further kind of situation, it's just pushing him over the edge. But then Alize, of course, with how reckless she is, she may get into a fight with Estinian and see what happens after that.
I just think she'd kick Estinian's ass after he called
Oh,
her.
it'd be-
No.
God. Oh, that was genius. It was genius.
Moving on from that, we get to obviously the scene where we see it's actually Favner that we see next. A lot of people thought it was a Heavensward area because obviously the Heavensward music plays, but that's just in ties to Estinian. But we actually see Terminus beasts flying and swarming all over Favner. And then we see Estinian on Vritra, and he comes down and he's badass. And is Estinian, of course, he's badass. Then we see Fandaniel in the tower that's in Gala mode, and I reckon that's going to be the Tower of Babel from Final Fantasy IV. Personally, I think that's what they're leaning towards.
I think so as well. Even from the teaser trailer when I saw it, like it gave me Void Ark vibes as well. But I do agree. I feel like it's Tower of Babel. Something's tapped into it, and I think that's where we will probably have a lot led to for like our dungeons and Maga Sisters and everything else.
Yeah. Fandaniel doesn't do much. He goes up the elevator like he does in the
Teaser.
Yeah, and obviously walks towards Xenos, and then we see it skip over, and there's Thancred and Uriandra. They're chilling in Favner too. They don't really do a lot. Like, I think it's just they're trying to fit in the Scions into the trailer somehow to be like, look,
Yeah.
the Scions are all here. And then we see Charlatan, which was first time seeing it. It reminded me tons of the Kingdom Hearts 3 final area from
Oh God.
from the Key Wars game as well.
Yeah.
It's very much that really pearly white kind of area.
Okay.
Then we see Graha. He's talking about the world having other problems, which I reckon is going to be to do. I actually think that's less of a hint towards 6.0 and more of a hint towards kind of a stuff we're going for past 6.0. Because obviously, as we know, 6.0 is the end of the story arc from 1.0 all the way to now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think one of my big fears is in one of my Discords, a lot of people have been talking about the fact that they don't like A Realm Reborn, and that's because a lot of my mates are impatient for a start. And A Realm Reborn is very foundation setting. It's building the wider world to set up all the stuff that we've had until Endwalker.
Yeah.
And I think that's what 6.1 to 6.5 is going to be. And I think it's going to be very off-putting for a lot of people because it's going to be a lot of setup with no payoff, at least not till future expansions. So that's one thing I'm slightly worried about going into Endwalker. Then we go to the room, as you say. It's got the big spiral and that lot. Charlatan being Charlatan, douchebags. And I still reckon that we won't get involved with the world kind of business is still ASEAN influence. I don't know which ASEAN. I don't know why. I just reckon there's an ASEAN influence in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And we see Xenos being Xenos and being just awesome looking with his new job, which revealed obviously the new job to everyone. And then it's everyone looking around, and then we go to the moon. And one of the things that interested me there was we actually fight the first beast from Amarat. So I'm wondering how that's going to play into it, whether there's just multiple first beasts or whether like the Amaratines sent away their Terminus beasts or like that. And then obviously you see the cool shot of the moon and going over Hydaelyn, Zodiac. Well, obviously Zodiac is meant to be the moon. It goes over the planet Hydaelyn, which makes me obviously there's plenty of speculation to be had from that alone. Because it's like, we know the Zodiac Hydaelyn Endwalker, the Hydaelyn Zodiac storyline is coming to an end with Endwalker. So it's like, do we kill both of them? Do we fuse them? Do we find a way for them both to just continue living and we don't deal with them? Like, there's so many ways that this could end. And that's what really intrigues me about Endwalker, is there's so much we don't know yet. And I think that's what this trailer has done really well. It's told us a lot, but it's also told us absolutely nothing. We're going into Endwalker with no clue. And Shadowbringers did the same thing, really, because setting up the end of Stormblood, I was like adamant that we were after Garlean next, because, you know, Alphino was going off with Maxima. They were going to Garlemald. They were setting up allies with the Popularis. and then it just like left turned and suddenly was at Shadowbringers. It was like the hell. So we went into an expansion not knowing everything, but we've come out loving Shadowbringers. I think it's easily everyone's favorite. So I like a lot of people are worried that Endwalker won't beat Shadowbringers. I'm not in that boat. I think this is going to knock Shadowbringers out the park.
I think so as well. I mean, a lot of what Shadowbringers did well, I feel like they're going to continue to build on as far as its scale and epicness and the I guess how the tables keep tightening and everything else for leading where the story's going. And with the same writer coming through, I feel that it's going to one up it, especially with how things have gone. I mean, the way the Scions are now all together, you have, Gaius continuing on your side at this point. You literally have the entire realm fighting for its life. So it's almost like I know it's I guess a bad reference at this point, but like a tournament of power from Dragon Ball Super at that point, where it's literally you're doing everything you can to win and learning anything you can to win at that point.
I'm looking forward to it. No matter how it ends, I think I'm going to come out the other side really happy.
Oh, I agree. Completely agree. And then I can't wait for the future of the game.
Yeah, 6.1 to 6.5. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're planning. Yeah. My personal one for the future is Meracidia, because I am a big fan of Meracidia and have been since Realm Reborn. But we'll see in the future where that leads.
Well, I mean, there's probably a lot untapped, and I'm sure with the way they've spread everything, with the Scions being, like you mentioned, separated and leading into a war zone, Graha and Cryo will probably be the ones to uncover more information that will probably expand the universe at that point.
Oh yeah.
I'd also like to see more of the 12. I mean, we had, we went to the source or not the source. We went to oh my God, why am I blanking on it in Shadowbringers? The first, yes, thank you. I'd like to go to more worlds. Let's see what it looks like. So,
well, I don't know if you've actually done this yet, because you have to have completed the Warring Triad from Heaven's Ward. You have to have done all the role quests in Shadowbringers.
But if the last thing I have not done.
If you do both of them, they lead into a storyline it's unresolved, but you can tell it's setting the void up for the future.
Okay. Yeah, the only thing I have not done is my melee DPS roll queue. That's the last. Once I get my samurai to 80, then I will be done with that. So I will be able to have that storyline.
I'm assuming you've done the Warring Triad then from Heaven's Ward.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I did Warring Triad. That was awesome. I've done pretty much all content at this point except for the final roll queue and doing the raid in oh my God, what can I think of it?
Stormblood.
I always make fun of it. Not Stormblood. Oh my God. Anyways, it's gonna bother me at this point. The Shadowbringers thing where you're getting your shinies. Azia. Thank you. That's I couldn't think of it.
Right. Deliver measure in that lot.
Yeah, that's the last thing. Bazia and the last roll queue are the only two things I have not done in the game at this point. It's a lot of stuff.
So moving on to our next topic, that would be Reaper, the job.
Yeah.
Which you haven't completed a melee yet, so maybe you just wait till Endwalker.
Jeez. It's Reaper has, the design of it, and I see the picture there. It is, and I've seen images, and I've already seen fan artwork. My God, it's beautiful. Like, and even when Yoshi came out in the Get Up during Fan Festival, I thought it was perfect. And I had a feeling it was going to be a Reaper class, and everybody speculated from the T-shirts and everything. But man, I'm blown away.
Well, I personally am both really happy and really annoyed with Reaper, because I have a ton of friends who they predict stuff and they're usually wrong. And they were like, it's gonna be Necromancer. And I was like, they're not doing Necromancer. They've said for ages they're not doing Necromancer. It's not Necromancer, so I'm right. But it's really just Necromancer.
In a Reaper form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks really good, though. The abilities look great. It's like they took Dragoon, enhanced it a ton, and then gave it like a little bit of like Dark Knight abilities is kind of how it is. But I love how the shade, you can like merge with it and do all the other abilities and stuff. I can only imagine how the glam is going to look for this bad boy. The joke when we were discussing it on my streams with what it may look like and how it's going to be, I was like, honestly, just make it look like the Death Sight from Gundam Wing. Just give it that, give it at least that weapon. I can already imagine that's going to be its first glowy weapon, is that it's going to be like an energy scythe. But either way, the artwork looks great, the abilities look fun, and I feel awful for the DPSQ at this point. So
Edgy botanist.
yeah, it's big time.
But also one thing you'll note is that a lot of, like, whilst it's very aesthetically different, everything from the fact that it fights with a scythe, it has the companion kind of thing, and it can merge the companion. It's Ranjit from Shadowbringers.
It is.
Like, even like the sort of explanation between why we can combine with this, it's a Void Scent Phantom that we obviously ally him with. Even the explanation as to why we can merge with that is very descriptive of how Ranjit did with his dragon. Because it's like a blood tie kind of business. And I know Slandy is probably going to end up playing Reaper, switching from Samurai.
Yeah, probably, pretty much. I have always been a guy who loves dark stuff, more or less. So,
it's just cool.
Yeah, it is. I do remember when Alien vs Predator was a game, and you could play as the aliens, and and I had to hunt my brothers as Marines or Predators as the alien because I love the dark stuff. And the same with World of Warcraft. My first class was a warlock, and then the Death Knight class came. I switched to that, and then the Demon Hunter came afterwards, and then and I switched to that. So, so I do like the dark team around things. Also, when
they end up looking the coolest.
Yeah. Also, when I first looked into Final Fantasy XIV, I think it was around when Heaven's Ward has been out for a little bit, and Stormblood was about to come out, and I saw the Dark Knight class. I was sold.
I was the same way. That's what sold me on the game when I saw the Shadowbringers trailer. I was like, yes.
One of the things I'm actually keeping on the subject of Dark Knight before we move off it, one of the things that I think they've done really well with Reaper is that they've made it very different to Dark Knight, whilst it's still aesthetically very similar. They could have, because obviously a lot of people are like, it's just melee Dark Knight, but it isn't. Like it's still such its own like idea, its own individuality, which is one thing that's Final Fantasy XIV does really well, is the jobs, whilst they can still play very similar, do very similar things, they still have their own identity. And Reaper has that so much. Even
like you watch the way that it moves and the mechanics of it, it's almost like if you literally took Dragoon, Dark Knight, and Summoner at some aspects and just combined it into this. I mean, it's different abilities and the way it's probably going to be utilized. It's going to be fun to see the differences. And you're completely right. As a vanilla WoW guy, I've played WoW since it first started. And then Final Fantasy XIV has sucked me in at this point. That's like all I want to play. The job differential is still incredibly different. And even in this, like, because I started as a black mage, Dark Knight's what got me into the game. I've rolled a white mage, which is the first healer I've ever done in an MMO, and it still felt different and fun. And then Samurai has been different. I'm going to be rolling probably a Gunbreaker next, more than likely after that, or a Machinist. But like, and even watching it in raids, even all the magic DPS, they're completely different. And it's incredible how well they've been able to keep that. And I can't wait to see at least, half of a raid party being a Reaper at this point, because we know how that's going to be. But it's going to be fun. Like, I can't wait to see.
24-man content and 18 DPS are all freaking...
That's exactly what it's going to be. Man, everybody going to be fighting for that gear. Give me that scythe.
Well, one of the things that's actually interesting about it that we already knew before coming into the announcement is this job is actually sharing gear with Dragoon, it's another maiming job. In my static, there's a Dragoon who will be the one he's already called dibs on the Reaper. So, but it's nice that like obviously the gear, it's nice that we're getting more gear share because Dragoon and Ninja for the longest time have bothered me.
They're the only ones.
Yeah, every other job shares gear, but Ninja and Dragoon are just like, oh, we won't. But
mine's.
So you go.
No, I was just joking. I was just saying they're calling my germs at that point, saying this is all mine.
But another thing that's going to make me question is obviously with the new jobs coming and with the way there's another maiming job, are we going to get more glamour plates? Like the glamour system, as much as I love glamour, is so far behind at how many sets we can have now, and it's just we need more glamour. My opinion has been that we should at least have one glamour plate for every job. And we haven't even got half of that at the moment.
I think that it more than likely will see it. I mean, that's been a lot of the community's biggest gripe that I've seen people talking about. And as you bring up versus other MMOs, and heck, even some looter shooters like Destiny and stuff like that, they've already revamped a lot of their glamour or transmog or whatever you want to call it at this point. I have a feeling that's probably something they're working on. They just want to get probably the bigger things out of the way first, namely cross data center. So, but I could see more of that coming in the future.
So,
7.0.
So both of you, I think, will be seeing you when you stream playing as Reapers from this point onwards.
And maybe.
Probably.
Slandy he'll be that. I'll probably still stick with Dark Knight. I mostly run Black Mage on new content because everybody else in the community runs other things, and I always feel that I can learn the mechanics better as a DPS class before tanking everything to the face at that point. So
I mean, isn't that what you do anyway as Black Mage?
Just lay down. I may as well just go in there and key it in and just lay there and wait to die.
Well, I know for a fact that I'll be playing Reaper at some point. It will never be my main. I'm a warrior main, have been since the realm reborn, and will remain as long as they keep Foul Cleave as an ability. There's no chance of me changing it. But I play every job. I try get right now, all of my jobs, every single job in the game, I have over 520 item level for, and obviously 530 is the cap. So I try to play as much of everything as I can. I intend to play Reaper. I am very looking forward to it. I don't know how they're going to do it yet. I'm curious as to how the job gauge is going to work, and because obviously they always add those special gauges to each job, which I think is a really cool thing. And I'm wondering if the way Reaper works is you get something to 100, and then that's when you combine with the void creature. And so, right now, the big thing is how does it play, and we won't find that out until close to Endwalker, I don't think.
Probably
no.
But otherwise, I think you're probably right there with as far as the gauge goes. More than likely, increase DPS as it continues.
Yeah, and obviously it looks cool. I think everyone's hype. I think it's very much the gunbreaker with this current expansion, and it's kind of blown Sage out of the water because obviously Sage was the big thing at the teaser trailer. Everyone was like, "This is so cool," and now everyone's just like Reaper.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we have a healer with automatic guns, basically, or you basically look like just anything from Gundam that's flying around, and it's like, oh, this is awesome. And then Reaper, it's like, nope, I'm not playing Sage anymore. But I still feel terrible. It's like. I'm probably gonna have to, when I play through Endwalker, I'm gonna just run tank the entire time because God knows that DPS and healer queues are gonna be through the roof at this point. So bye that.
My big question that hasn't been answered, and it's the last thing I'll say on Reaper is I have no clue where this is coming from lore-wise, and I'm a lore nerd. I can tell you stuff about everything. I haven't got a clue. It could be Mackie. It could be some Favnarian. We just don't know at this point. So I'm definitely intrigued to watch the storyline for Reaper as well, just to find out more lore in general.
There was one thing I did see, and it's more of a theory, and I'm actually cool with this theory, that somehow that if you really think about Square and their history with Reaper classes or Scythe classes, one of the, to my mind, and I agreed with what this person said, one of the most popular ones that come to mind is Magus from Chrono Trigger. So somehow taking in not including Magus or Chrono Trigger as a joke into the game, but self of how Magus's powers came to be and everything, and kind of maybe incorporating it. But as far as the world of 14, God knows where that's going to come from. I mean, I agree, and it may be the Void Arc at that point if it does come from anything.
Although one of the things actually, I said this would be the last thing I say about Reaper, but I'm forgetting. Obviously, we got to talk about Xenos. Xenos is Reaper essentially, but my question is, I don't think he will be Reaper how we are, because I cannot see him having the Void Scent and that lot. And obviously, one of the things in the trailer is he actually has a gun scythe and not a normal scythe.
Yeah, unless he's got Fandaniel floating around him as the Void. So
that would
like
be
a little Pikachu Pokemon floating around behind him at that point.
So the final boss of the expansion is Xenos filling his gauge and combining with Fandaniel.
God, that'd be miserable. I don't want to think of that. I now have nightmares tonight. Thank you.
So our next subject is Sage. And obviously, it's an older subject. We've kind of known about it for a while, but I am still just as hyped. And one of the things I'm actually really hyped for is the split of healer responsibility into shield healers.
Yeah.
They're calling them, I think it's barrier healers, and your main healers, which are basically regen healers. And I'm never playing Scholar again as a barrier healer. It's easily got one of my favorite weapon styles. I'm not a Gundam fan. I know obviously there's a lot of people who are like, it's Gundam something of another. And I don't understand the reference because I've not seen Gundam. But that weapon is so cool. And Sage is actually the job that's stopped me trying to predict Endwalker stuff altogether, because I was a big person who every expansion I'd predict stuff. Then when I was right about stuff, I'd go, I'm right. I know my lore. I could have predicted that just by seeing. I've played every Final Fantasy game. I can predict everything they're going to do. And then Sage came out, and I was like, what the hell is this? I swore we were getting Chemist. I swore by it.
I did. I thought the same thing.
And then just Sage. And even if you got the idea of Sage right, you did not get it in this rendition of Sage with the gun weapon thingies. It has really cool gear. And
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm curious as to how it's going to play, honestly, because they really haven't said a lot about it. They said that like you can power up your attacks, but they really haven't shown it. Obviously, we've seen a couple of attacks, but not enough for us to gauge how it's going to play.
It may be, it's weird, I'm gonna almost pull it from like an Overwatch perspective, like Baptiste. An invincibility shield, you're gonna add buff attacks and things like that, while it also, like you said, your regen healers and everything there too, but it's still gonna be healing, just not to the capacity of what like a white mage can do. So I feel like as a support role for what the Sage is more than likely gonna end up being, you're probably gonna be able to melt things a lot faster in not really in raids, but in older dungeons with having a Sage run through. It will be interesting to see more of like its actual rotation. But I feel like it's gonna be a huge buff shield, like you mentioned that piece, and heals are gonna be more of, here's your instant heal, or a gradual, this shield will protect you and heal the tank at the same time kind of situation. But it's almost like I feel like it's gonna be doing more DPS than anything else. It's an off healer.
I'm wondering as a long time player if the way it's going to play with its, because they said something about its attacks got Pile Flare, and I'm wondering if that means that there's like in old Final Fantasy 14, probably before either of you have played, there was a ability called Cleric Stance for White Mage, and what that did is your healing got weaker, but your damage got way stronger. And I'm wondering if that's how Sage is going to play, whether it's going to be a risk versus reward kind of gameplay for it, which I think would be interesting. I think we need some more jobs risky. Like, one of the things I've always been upset about with Dark Knight is that it doesn't drain its own health to do more damage. Scare the hell out of you.
Yeah, and isn't it, I think they said it was temporary augments as well, like throughout the entire class. Or job that it can do, like for all of its magic abilities, it can add, like, I know you said it can try and buff itself and get stronger, but I think I read somewhere that it has temporary augments for all of its magical abilities to have it do something different or amplify it differently. It's gonna be crazy either way. Like Sage, just the design of it, the look of it, the way it will play. Where's it gonna be housed out of? Is it Limsa?
I can't remember where it is we pick it up. I think you might be right with it being Limson, but I reckon, like with Reaper's going to start in Uldar, but I have a feeling that like after the first quest, it has nothing to do with Uldar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least like past the Shadowbringer stage.
Okay.
With Sage, I can't remember where you pick it up. I think you're correct on it being Limsa. But then I think like half of your story quests are going to involve you going to Old Charlatan. Because
I would think so.
It is Charlatan. Even the way they showed it in the trailer, the area it's in is like Great Gubal Library, which is obviously New Charlatan.
Mhm.
So I fully expect that it's going to be Charlatan in its story. It's definitely a job I intend to play, just like with Reaper.
Oh yeah.
I doubt
I'll
it.
try
So
it.
I doubt it. So I'm going to main, but I have a feeling if I ever need to be an off healer for anyone, Sage is going to be my choice. Scholar, just unless they really do a workaround of Scholar and Summoner, I'm just not interested in those two jobs. There's too much. I'm not a big pet class fan. That's why I'm hoping the Void monster for Reaper plays more like Dark Knight with how it gets its Shadow Clone thingy. Because I much prefer that kind of like burst window secondary summon, but I can summon and then just don't care about it. It'll do its own thing.
Yeah.
I hate micromanaging. But so other than like the fact that it's in Charlene, I can't really think of out more about Sage. I think just like with Reaper, it's very much we got to wait to the end of the year to find out enough to really have a deep conversation about the job.
Yeah.
But both jobs are pretty hype. I think, on a personal level, I think Sage and Reaper is cooler than Gunbreaker and Dancer. Although Dancer is a sore spot for me because I was hoping that would be a melee healer.
I was thinking the same thing. It was more of a support heals and then with buffs and everything. But I also wish that Gunbreaker was a cool ad, and I like how they're bringing in a little bit more of Final Fantasy VIII with things. I still wish tanks got more love. I think them and healers now have the same amount of classes or jobs to choose from.
Yeah,
it's hard to pick between the two. I mean, chemists will more than likely be the next healer, and now that it wasn't used, I just wonder where tanks will go next.
I think
soldier class,
soldier third class. I think
God, I'd be fine with that. I don't care.
I think for next expansion, if we're gonna guess on jobs, my prediction this early, obviously, but I think our next job, obviously, we're guaranteed a DPS. I cannot see them not doing a DPS. Yoshi himself has said that he feels like he always has to do a DPS because that's what everyone plays the most. Personally, I hate playing DPS. I because I'm a raider, DPS actually have the most responsibility because they've got to spam out the damage, otherwise we fail. Especially with how FF14 plays. So I avoid playing DPS in any like major content. It's just some out, doing side content, stuff like that. But I think
mine, and I will speak this I will yell this into the void if I have to. I am begging and still to this day praying. I know people are like, oh, we have Paladin and all this other stuff. Give me just Thunder God Sid's class from Tactics. Let me be an awesome Templar. Just call it Templar and make it Thunder God Sid. Just leave it at that.
Well, for our DPS, I think we're going to get a scouting job. Just because we've had a maiming one. And Yoshi said cool. the way the team looks at it is more gear than anything else. And obviously we've not had a scouting job since the Realm Reborn. I hope it's another tank. And I want to agree with you. Give us a Templar. Give me hammers. Give me the ability to buy Nero's hammer off a bloody Mog Station and put it on my Templar.
I think that would be good. Give a tank, give a DPS, and we'll call it a day. Then we'll think about more healers down the road. Or all three. It's start of a new story, start of a new whole bit. Why not go all three? Go big.
One thing whilst we're still on jobs that I'm actually interested about is the fact we've had no news on another limited job.
Yeah, it's true.
I actually, I didn't enjoy Blue Mage at the beginning. Personally, it's because I love Blue Mage in other games. Enemy skill material is my favorite material in 7. When you get beta from Midgard Samir for the first time, it's just the best feeling ever. But I loved Blue Mage, and I didn't enjoy the way it played, especially when it only went up to 50. I wasn't interested. What they've done this expansion with up to level 70, level 70 right now is in a really good place. I've had a lot of fun with Blue Mage. I've got every single spell now. I've done all the mass carnivals, and I intend to go get my mobile mount at some point by doing all the savage stuff. But one of my big complaints with the limited job system is that it's Blue Mage, and that's it. One of the things I was looking forward to the limited job system is having other jobs kind of just all be ridiculously powerful, but just like, how do they mesh and still be ridiculously powerful? Beastmaster obviously is one that everyone wants. And if it's purely because they think Blue Mage has failed, Blue Mage failed because it was not released with 2 limited jobs, in my opinion. I think the problem with the limited job system is the lack of limited jobs, and obviously a lot of people just don't like the limited job system on a base level because it's limited. And I've always said to them, I bet if you saw it with other limited jobs, it would be a more interesting system. And unless they give us another one, we'll never know. And that really upsets me, really, because it's content that could be good, but they have to invest in it. The next thing to talk about would be obviously the new city zones. And the first one that we know about was Radzat Han from the teaser trailers.
Yes.
This looks gorgeous, I'll be honest. It's very, like, design-wise, I think it's very Yulmore. Like, not just in that it's colourful, but even its shape is so Yulmore.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that as well.
And this will be our Yulmore city. The way, obviously, the cities work is that you've got the city that's, like, the general hub of the story, and for us this time, I think that's going to be Charlayan. But you don't, once you're level 80 and you want to go get your gear, you usually go pick it up at Yulmar, for instance. So for level 90, where we'd pick up our gear is Radzat Han. And there's some really good lore reason for that as well. Radzat Han is obviously like the merchant center of the world. They've got trade deals with Garlemald. They're in trade with the Far East. They're in trade with Eorzea. I believe they trade with the New World. I'm not completely sure on that one. But they are also the only place in the world that Murasidia trades with, which also gives me hope for Murasidia in the future.
It looks really good, design wise, and I'm gonna be very interested in seeing. I do agree. I think it is like a more enhanced Yulmore situation. It kind of gives me some. I can't remember the name of the city, but it reminds me a little bit of one of the hubs in Final Fantasy XII as well, with the colors and the way that kind of like the structuring and everything is of it. But it looks, I agree, it's going to be a blast to run through. And as far as lore goes, I can't imagine what kind of trade hubs they're going to have or what kind of gear you can actually get from it. It'd be cool if they actually had like exclusive gear to buy from there. I don't know. I'll be interested.
Well, one of the interesting things,
get me in there.
Radzat Han we've had since as a name since A Realm Reborn. For those of us who have dragged the long grind of doing the A Realm Reborn relics, Radzat Han was big involved with then, which then makes me wonder if our next relic will involve Radzat Han as our centerpieces to lead into that, which will be interesting. If we have more exploration content, honestly, they could do Murasidia as the exploration content, and then Link is there through Radzat Han because of the trade deals, and then, we go there and get our relics from there. That would be really cool. I don't know. Obviously, that's just speculation. There's no solid guess in that, but the big thing for Radzat Han that I've noticed is it's our Final Fantasy X reference. I reckon Anima is going to be something evolved around here, but Favnau as a zone, even you see tents, and they are tents ripped right out of freaking Besaid Island. So I reckon a lot of our FF10 references are going to come from Radzat Han. I reckon this is where Anima is going to fight us.
More than likely. It feels like Endwalker is going to be all Final Fantasy IV and Final Fantasy X.
Yeah.
But I'm cool with that. I mean, sure.
We've always had themes. Like, obviously, we had the FF6 kind of themes for Storm.
Omega.
Yeah, Omega, Doma.
Oh, God. Yeah. I mean, I love how they incorporate it. It's like 14's basically Final Fantasy All-Stars, the way they just pull everything together.
One of the interesting things about Radzat Han will be that, obviously, if you're going to teleport there, make sure you have a good CPU, because this thing is going to destroy your computer. It's where everyone's going to be. Because
Yeah.
all the level 80s are going to be AFK in here, waiting to get their gear, waiting for the roulettes to roll. So don't go here unless you want long load times.
Yeah.
Obviously, one of the few things we do know about it is we see some of the science here in the trailer. As I say, Estinian was around Favner area. I don't know when we're going to go here in the storyline. I'm guessing somewhere like midway. Either midway or like really early. It depends how early we go to Charlene. Like if we go to Charlene straight away, kind of like how we did with the Quistarium, I reckon we won't see Razat until like level 65 or something. 65? 85. I'm way level behind. But I think Razat is going to be like our pit stop before Garlemald, and then I reckon Garlemald will be our pit stop before the moon. So I reckon this would definitely be like a near end game kind of see. But I'm looking forward.
I would agree.
I'm looking forward to Razat. I'm looking forward to the vibrant colors. I think its culture and stuff is really cool.
Yeah.
The next area obviously would be Old Charlene, which like this is just everything is gorgeous. The white, this very Greek Roman kind of marble building, I love. Like one of the things I love about like housing area wise, I chose Mists as my housing area because I love that kind of white building. And so Old Charlene is so pretty. And obviously, as we well know, these are usually like they don't care about the world. So that's going to be interesting.
They're holding all the knowledge and they're like, yeah, we're just going to sit on this knowledge. Screw you guys.
And I reckon out of all the places in the story, this is where we're going to get the most Asian information.
Probably so. And there could even be a possibility that, there Asian information, you're probably going to have a lot of probably void sent information through there as well. There's no telling what Graha is going to find in the libraries there more than likely. It's going to be insane.
20 expansions for us.
Pretty much.
Obviously, we know Kryl is going there like soon, so that'll be our link to it. I'm not sure if you yourself are aware, but this is the home of Daddy Levelier.
Yep.
And I reckon he's who we've seen in the trailer. One of the places that they showed us in one of the pictures, they showed us a mansion, and they were like, "This is important if you know your story." I reckon that's Louis Suar's house. I reckon we're going to Louis Suar's mansion, which is big as a 1.0 player for me. Like that is just so good because ever since Around Reborn, we've kind of like tapered off speaking about Louis Suar in the MSQ, which is sad because obviously 1.0 is guided by him. And then the Realm Reborn trailer, he sacrifices himself to fight Bahamut. Like, this dude's a proper Chad.
Yeah,
and
it'd be cool to see that.
We've just kind of stopped talking about him, so I'm interested to find out more about Louis Suar. We could learn more about the Circle of Knowing, which is obviously what the Scions were before they came over. There's so much here that links to a lot of the older stuff, but for older players like me, this is like the hot zone for story.
Yeah. Which also, it could be where, like, more than likely where you come across the Pandemonium raid, maybe, or that may actually come from probably the place on the moon, more than likely.
My theory for Pandemonium is that it's actually going to be an FF2 reference, but we'll get to that like when we get to that topic.
Sorry, my bad. Getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, just trying to rush. One of the things I like about Charlene as well is the docks are very Phoenician. They're very Krotosian. And obviously with their aetheryte as well, it's a shell. So obviously these are very oceanic kind of, on the ocean people, like sea wayfarers and stuff like that. I reckon we'll get there from Limsa, personally, story-wise. Boat to there. Although we have got that bloody airship that what's her face bloody made for the Scion somehow, because she does absolutely everything. Honestly, I just think this is going to be, as you say, I think it's going to set with Graha, it's going to set up a lot of the future stuff. And I reckon whilst this will be like the center point of our story, I also reckon that we won't spend as much time now as we think we're going to. I think it's very much set up stuff. Maybe in the 6.1, 6.5 patches, I feel like there'll be a lot of old Charlene stuff. But earlier on, I just don't see it being, especially with the fact that they don't involve themselves. And we've seen in the trailer, they say they don't want to involve themselves. I just don't think they're going to be too involved with the story, which is weird to me, but we'll see. Obviously, I'm not the writers. I don't know.
No, I think there's a thing we should talk about here with the old Shalea as well, because during the trailer it actually says Player Hub City as well, just about the name.
Yeah, Player Hub City is, as I say, it's. I never get why it's called the Player Hub City, because we never stay there.
No.
Crystarium, the Crystarium. Is it the Crystarium, the main city of Shadowbringers? My brain is dead today. But, you know, the big...
Technically, yes.
Yeah, that's meant to be the player hub. But when you log in the game and you teleport to Crystarium, it's dead. Then you go to Yulmore and there is everyone.
Everybody's there.
I
feel
think
like it's going to be the same way between the two places. It's going to be the exact same way. Just player preference, I guess. And Yulmore is just more the place to be, I guess.
Yeah, as I say, it's where you trade in half your collectibles there. For crafters, and gatherers, you get all your gear from there. Your raid gear is usually from there. We had it back in Stormblood. Everyone was in Raga's Reach all the time, and Kagane got kind of ignored. So, whilst it's the player hub, it's not. I think it's a really bad naming convention. It's just the center hub of the story, really.
Yeah.
But going from Old Charlene, we've got the new areas. One of the ones that definitely interests me is the Labyrinthos. I reckon that's in Charlene. I reckon it's under Charlene. Its architecture is very similar.
From the images I've seen and the stills that I've seen, I agree. I feel that that's going to be the one that ends up pulling from there. It looks good. I can't wait to see more of it.
One of the things that I think, obviously, everything I say is guessing, but one of my theories is that we go to Old Charlene. They say they're not willing to help, you know, we'll survive one way or another. I reckon Labyrinthos is going to be like a nuclear bunker for them. Like, that's where they're going to go hide from the end of the world. And I reckon we're going to go there, find out it's, you know, not good there. There's enemies running amok, all that kind of stuff. We go solve that, and then we go back to Charlotte and like, look, your bunker's not working. Are you going to help now? But visually, that area is really cool. I'm definitely looking for, especially with the dome with the fake sky, and then the fake sun. If that's fake sun thing that I thought looked like it was straight out of bloody Alexander, if that actually works as a sun, that really shows how far ahead of us Charlene is technology wise. If this is the Charlene zone. The other areas we got were. I keep having to look away. I'm sorry about that. It's because of how my setup is. The other area we got obviously is Favner, around Radizat-Han. And I reckon that's where the Mega Sisters are going to pop their heads. A lot of people think it's in the tower in Garlemald, but I don't think it is. I reckon that's Favner. Although I also think Anima is Favner, so it could... God knows which one. But as we say, the Favner is very FF10 themed looking, with its draperies, its tents, all that kind of. It's very Besaid, Kilika, Luca kind of in design. So
here's the thing though with the Maga Sisters, are they what version? Because I know they've been in Final Fantasy lore, or not lore, but prior games multiple times where they've been either an NPC allied to help you with a quest, or in like 4 where you have to fight them kind of situation. So is it going to be, they're going to help go through and help you get through the raid series, or are they going to be bosses in raids or dungeons and that kind of stuff?
But the big thing obviously is that
backstab you later.
Yeah, exactly.
this expansion is looking to be both FF10 and FF4 themed. And the Mega Sisters are in both. So whose side they're on could be in the air. Although they have said that this is a unique Mega Sisters to the
series,
14, yeah. And you can see that. But one of the things I noticed is they still look very human. I don't know if you've seen the pictures. But like one looks like a Lalafell and one looks like an Alizon and one just looks like a chubby human.
That's pretty much the case. And I've seen the very, very animated, very colorful. They could even, with the way their colors are, they could be coming from one of the new hub cities as well. So
Yeah,
no telling.
The biggest area of them all, I think, talking point wise, a lot of people would say the moon, but I think it's Garlemald. Garlemald's been involved since 1.0, and how long has everyone wanted to go there and see their tech? And obviously,
it's the name,
and it's destroyed. We're gonna
That's
get
my
that,
thing. I wonder if like how much of it are you going to get to see? How much of it are you going to get to explore, or is it just going to be a wow? It's scorched earth over here. Thanks, Xenos. Appreciate it.
One of my theories has been that there's probably like a Popularis like cell still surviving there, because obviously what we know currently is that all the Popularis are dead. There could still be a cell that we kind of like make contact with, and then we're in like the big question is when it says Garlemald or Garlemald. I can't remember if it said Garlemald or Garlean, whatever. Are we going to the city itself and the whole city is just the area, or is we going to have like outlying villages and stuff like that?
Mm.
And if we have some of the outlying villages, it could be that some of them are more intact, and then obviously as you get close to the city, it's just, as you say, scorched earth. One of the if God knows.
I was gonna say I'm lost on that point. I mean, I would love to see like when you got to experience it briefly as a Stinian, like running through with when you were with Gaius. I thought that was really cool. It's like, oh, you're here, like you're in Garlemald, and then all of a sudden it's like you're out of Garlemald, and now you're like, oh, I'm gonna go back, and what's left? Like camps? Like, are you gonna be? Is it gonna be part of war grounds? Like, what's the deal? And I still want the Garlemald or Garlean armors. Like, I know you can get the judge set and everything from Bosnia, but God, I've always loved their armor. No. I love their armor sets, and I would love for like to have a dungeon there. Excuse me, have a dungeon there or something, and be able to get something from it, like loot drops or whatever. I don't care. That's one of my things. I love the way they look. I love their armor.
Well, I'm with you there, because ever since Castra Meridianum with Livia Yandere woman, her helmet was awesome. Nero is one of my favorite characters in the game. His armor's awesome. His helmet.
Yeah,
they could easily
he's like Iron Man.
They could easily give us their sets, but just like recolors or something. And one of the things, if we are going to get Guardian armor, give us Diable. But I'm definitely with you on the armor sets. I actually role play in the game, which is obviously, you get involved in the world. Your character is the character in the world. And my character is a elf who's meant to have been working for the 6th Legion, but I don't have any Garlean sets. And obviously we've got the judge armor, as you say, but I see that more as Landis gear, which is where obviously Granth is from, because it doesn't look Garlean. It's a bit too medieval, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Whereas Garlean armor is like, it looks very like carbon fire, plastic mesh armor. It's not plate in its typical sense. Another thing I was interested about is mounts going into Garlemald, because we see roads there. So does that mean we might get more car and bike mounts? That would be nice.
Well, they are bringing back the 15 event, I think, sometime this year. So everybody get the car.
There's just going to be roadblocks and traffic jams in the middle of Garlemald. People beefing.
That's exactly what it's going to
be. Get out the way. The real reason Garlemald got destroyed is there was just all these. The Warrior Light got in a traffic jam and just nuked the place. And obviously, the other big talking point with areas is the moon, obviously. And for us lore nerds, we know that the moon is something to do with Zodiac, whether it be his prison, his corpse. We actually don't know what it is yet. But from what we had, but we also knew that Alligans went up there back in the 3rd Astral Era, and so they could have a place there. From some of the artwork we've seen, it looks like there's ancient, like the world of the ancients. Their kind of architecture, like Amarat architecture, we've seen some of that in the screenshots. So it's going to be interesting to see, like, will we meet ancients who actually survived? Will we meet Alligans who survived the third era? There's a lot we could learn, like, of the bigger world from that. And a big question I have is the way the shattering works, or the sundering shattering, where Heidelin kicked Zodiac and we got the 14 worlds, the source, and the 13 shards. We know that it doesn't expand completely out into the universe, because Midgardsormr came from Dragonstar, and Omega obviously came from wherever he came from, and they were still whole. We know Midgardsormr is a full soul, and obviously he flew to Heidelin, and then he ended up on the source. So my question is, going up to the moon, is the moon in that kind of like bubble of the shattered things, or is that, are we going to go up them? Then how do we view the different worlds? Because if it's a bubble of these different shards of the same world, like, it just messes with your head when you think about it. Like, how are they going to do that?
I would think there's probably going to be some sort of bubble associated like around it, because like if you look at some of the artwork, especially like what Square Enix has put on there, like you see hints in the crater behind the tower that's there, like orbs or purple spheres and that kind of thing. So and you have, it almost looks like it has its own like gravitational pull too, with the way they have in the artwork at least, like rubble from the moon and like meteors or whatever just kind of like hovering around it. And it is it's very, I mean, it is more Final Fantasy IV toss up at that piece, because I mean anima could even come from this possibly. I don't think so, but there's I think that we'll probably see Alligans and other things, like you mentioned, that this is where from the prior oh my god, from the prior events that happened on the source, this I feel like is where just the remainder has fleed, or at least the ones that have lived it all and seen it all and expect it all. This is where I feel like you're going to learn everything from the end of Zodiac, Heidelin, everything, and it's we probably won't be here, but maybe level probably what 70, no Jesus, I'm doing the same thing you did, 88 to 90 maybe, or maybe just 90 plus, is this is where you're going to be, because it's, they show a main crystal hub there and everything there, so I wonder if it's going to be another place.
I definitely think it's going to be like the final area.
That would be my guess.
We know it's definitely an open area zone, like you know, if we went to like the Tempest a lot. But I reckon it's something, as you say, if it's like the last stop in the train kind of thing. And then
where crap hits the fan and it's slung around at that point. That's where you are.
Fight Zodiac there, or are we going to fight Xenos absorbing Zodiac? And
oh god,
and obviously with Xenos picking up the Reaper Scythe, it's very hinting towards final boss of Final Fantasy IV, and obviously we know it's Final themed, and so it's just.
But at the same time, though, is Xenos absorbs Zodiac and kills Heidelin, and then like what happens?
My theory with that is, if we kill Zodiac, we're killing Heidelin. I don't, because obviously
I agree.
We know from the first, we can't have too much light if we don't have too much dark. They've got to balance each other out. So if we kill Zodiac, Heidelin's just going to nuke everywhere.
Yep. One thing's got to go. If one goes, the other's got to go.
Which is why it makes me wonder, like, what kind of ending are we going to have? Are we actually going to fight Zodiac? Because if so, then we got to kill Heidelin. Or are we going to keep Zodiac locked up and just kill off anyone who has the freaking knowledge to bring him back?
We're just going to find Minfilia in there again. That's what it's going to be. Acting as Heidelin. We're going to find Minfilia.
Although people are theorizing we're going to see Vanar, because there's in one of the art pieces of like the Scion standing up, the very top, there's a body of someone we have no clue who it is.
Yeah.
So it could be Vanar. I'm wondering, like, will we see Elidibus again? Because spoilers to Slandy, but we know that Elidibus was the heart of Zodiac and he pulled himself out. But did he pull his whole self out, or is there another part of him still left in Zodiac?
I feel I mean, there is a high possibility you will. I think you'll probably see nods to all of the Ascians as well, throughout Endwalker, specifically on the moon associated with Zodiark and everything else. I think Elidibus will be one place that we'll see. Laha Bread will probably give us an hour-long spiel on something, just like in Pandemonium. But I feel like you're going to end up seeing all the Ascians leading up to this, tying into things, especially with how the trailer even leads to where the Warrior of Light has his Ascian garb almost. I feel like it's going to be almost like an acceptance kind of thing. God, if just give us a little bit more Emic Selk, please. Just give us a little bit more.
Well, we hear his voice in the trailer, so we could very much have him still.
Don't get my hopes up. But I mean, I have a feeling that the even though the Ascians have been who we've been fighting the whole way through, the way that Emmett ended things and the way that the Elidibus sector ended things on the first, and it's tying things up on the source, I feel that we're gonna end up tying a lot of them together and seeing all of them again at some point, or discussing them, and ending technically with the Warrior of Light, I guess, at that point. Like
As him.
Yes. So I mean, technically he's the last, and I think and as it goes, I mean, he was Emmett Selk's best friend, you're Xenos' best friend. Once again, we have Vegeta on our hands all over again. So I don't know. The moon is gonna, the moon is the final place as far as lore goes and Ascians and everything else. I feel like it's just it'll tie everything up in probably some heartbreaking manner, and you're just gonna have your mind blown at the same time.
Well, keeping on the Ascian track, obviously we've got the next raid, which is Pandemonium. And whose ugly mug should be on the front but our one and only Laha Bread?
I'm wondering how that's gonna end up being.
Here's
go ahead.
Here's where we get into my theory. As I said earlier, I think it's going to be FF2 themed, because and this is like tinfoil hat, let's go down the road. Laha Breya in the Scions of Light as counterance to someone in the Zodiac from the 12 and Tactics games is Matthias. Now, obviously, Emperor Matthias was the villain in Final Fantasy II who went to Pandemonium, kicked Satan off the throne of Hell, and took over. And we know there's two theories here where it could lead to. Is my first theory, which would be, is like the one that I least believe myself, but would laugh so much if it was true, is Laha Breya doesn't get a redemption arc like the other Ascians. Instead, they go full, he's a psychopath. He takes over Hell, the 7 Hells as we know them on Eorzea, and we have to go to the 7 Hells and deal with Laha Breya. So he comes back and he's running Hell now. As I say, that's the like least believable version. And
that'd
then
actually be really fun if they did that.
But then the other one,
I'd enjoy the hell out of it.
The other one is still, it's a very hellish type thing. He was a weapons manufacturer essentially before the Sundering. It could be, obviously, Mr. Habby's talked about on his channel. Could be that we fight his concepts, and then that could also give us a Freeter, because we know that Laha Breya made femalely free, horny man that he is.
I think the first one would be, like you said, your tinfoil hat situation would be the most epic out of them. My question on it, and I'm wondering how it may go with it being Pandemonium, and like you said, Laha Breya's the wonderful face that we see on there. I'm hoping that they don't rehash almost like a Eden situation where you like refought the primals in a different form. I'm hoping that we don't do like Pandemonium. Hey, here's all the Scions again in a different form, and like they're the bosses, if that makes sense. I'm hoping they don't give us that, because I feel that with this being like the last probably big raid of the story of the Hydaelyn and Zodiark story, that it's got to be some sort of epic thing. But at the same time, I feel like it is, if you think about it, 12 total of, or that I'm thinking more of the trials at that point, but it still could fall into the point of where you're going to end up fighting ASEAN counterparts or that have been left behind. Or it could be that somehow Laha Bread is, like you said, they're taken over at some point, and you're basically trying to fight off the Sundering at that point all over again.
I definitely, if I do bring La Habrea back, one of my big things, like requests, is, well, not requests, because obviously I don't speak to the bloody dev team. One of the things I hope in my heart is they don't redeem him. I think they've done Elidibus a redemption arc. We've done Emmett a redemption arc.
Which they deserved it.
Yeah, but even Emmett refers to La Habrea as basically a freaking psychopath. Let him be the psychopath. Bring him back, sure, by all means, but go even deeper with the fact that he's a bloody Disney villain.
I'd be cool with that. Just leave it be. I'd be cool with that. I think it'll be fun. And as far as like hardcore raiders and versus casuals, I feel like it could be similar to how now, is it Pandemonium? Is it the Alliance raid or just the standard raid series they're doing?
It's just the standard raid, like with Eden.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I feel that it would still be fun. Story should be very good as far as it goes, but I mean, give it I think it'd be good for either hardcore raiders or casuals to experience, especially with it being the last one.
I think if they don't do La Habrea returning in the sense of he's there, and it's actually just we kind of see like references to him in the story and it's his creations and stuff. I think that the 12th fight, so the final one in the tier, the Savage fight, the second part of the boss, because I don't know if you've actually seen any Savage fights, but they're always done it. You have a gatekeeper boss, and then you have the actual like a boss that's like, this is what could have happened if a warrior light didn't win. With Eden, obviously you fought Eden's promise, and then Gaia comes down as the Oracle of Darkness, and you have to fight Gaia. It could very much be that La Habrea is the like alternative ending Savage boss.
That actually would be really cool if they did have something like that to be tied in. It very well could also be that, going back to your, I don't know, it's weird, I'm spinning off of your tinfoil hat idea. It could be that the bosses and everything from there could be ranged from like fallen angels and demons, because if you think about Hydaelyn and Zodiark, with what they represent technically of the light and dark, you could have, angels and demons, or fallen angels and demons within that point of being the bosses within it, and then the Emperor of Hell himself being the final boss of the entire raid series.
Well, obviously
similar back to Final Fantasy II.
Pandemonium is the capital of hell in most like
correct
rituals. You've got it in Diablo, you've got it in Final Fantasy, even like religious text, Pandemonium is a thing.
Yeah.
So it's definitely.
I think that would be awesome if they did that.
I would look, especially if they did it in the sense of, because obviously there's the big theory that it's going to be on the moon currently, like, and I think the moon theory leans more into my concepts idea, but like there's just a freaking La Habrea's weapons store and the moon, and but if they did it on the source, as I say, it could very much be a way to, because we hear people talk about the seven hells all the time. And obviously there's the sense of it's like this religious belief that there's the seven hells where you go to get tortured. But in some parts of the lore, people talk about the seven hells as if it's a place. It's actually in like some freaking volcano or something or another up in one of the islands. So it'd be interesting to know if it is. And even with it being an actual place as a religious idea, it could still all link to La Habrea's concepts. It could be that, there's this place on the source that's just La Habrea's freaking weapons lab where he's created all these nuts-ass concepts. And, people, souls sometimes get lost on the way and go down and get tortured or something. Like, there's so many ways they could go at this. And I think it's so interesting that they haven't told us anything about it other than giving us this La Habrea's face.
Yeah.
Because it just tin hats like crazy. I'm
excited for it either way.
Oh, definitely. As a Savage Raider, this will be my first Savage raid completely, but I actually go into it from fight 1 with a static. Because I like each tier, I'll join a different. My static is go to hell, and I'll join a different one. But my current static seem to be sticking together, so I'm looking forward to going into this with a static and just being able to enjoy it properly from the beginning. Another big hope I have is finally getting Slandy into the bloody raiding scene in this game. Pull him away from
It's
World of
fun,
Warcraft
man.
level.
It's so much fun, and it respects your time. It's not like you're doing it for 2 hours.
Which means you can free up your weekends, Slandy.
Oh.
Start doing WoW raiding and do the easy one. I wouldn't say it's easier. It's definitely, as you say, more time friendly. At least once you've cleared it the first time, it's more time friendly.
Correct. Once you learned it, it's like, oh, this isn't that bad.
Yeah, but learning it can be a pain in the ass.
God, yes, it can. As it still is a pain for me, unfortunately.
And you're just doing normal. God help you when you get to Savage. And then that actually brings me to something I forgot to add to our list of talking topics. But we get an ultimate raid next expansion too.
I'm very, very, very interested to see what that ends up being.
The Dragon Song War, which obviously all we know of it currently is that it's the Dragon Song War, and the first picture of one of the arenas is the end of the vault from Heaven's Ward. God help us with the feels is my theory.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be very good.
But I definitely want to get into Ultimate Raiding going into that.
Yeah.
And the next topic is the Myths of the Realm. As you was talking about Alliance raids, you've got the Myths of the Realm, which is, you said something earlier on about the 12 as well. Here's the 12 on a circle as the icon for the Alliance raid, which is really interesting to me because something about me that like a lot of my friends always get confused about is I hate Alliance raids, and it's not because of the story. Like, I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of Nier. I know you love it, Rick, but you've played the Nier games. The last one I played was Drakengard.
Oh Lord, okay.
I don't dislike Alliance raids because of the concept of the stories. Like Void Ark, the whole Void Ark storyline I adore. I loved the Crystal Tower. Evil East was awesome, as I know you found out.
God,
But I don't like 24-man content. I don't like big player content. Like 8 men is enough for me. Dealing with anything more is just a headache. It's why I don't like WoW raiding.
Yeah, and it's funny. So the way that they've gone through, I feel like they've progressively gotten better in their 24-man content. Like going as a newer player, I guess, with over like way more hours than I'd like to admit at this point. Playing all the old stuff compared to how it is now, I feel like they've continuously gotten better and better. Story-wise, like I still feel like the tactics bit was the best story out of the 24-man content for Alliance raids.
I think,
but the mechanics I feel like continuously got better. Tactics and Evilus were good mechanics. The bosses kind of took some time to get used to, but once you understood it, it was better. Then you did Nier, and Nier was kind of all over the place on some stuff, but at the same time, it wasn't like I'm completely struggling with it. And it was more of almost like a fanboy nature as it added into more of the Nier and Drakengard storylines and everything, which I played Drakengard 1. I never played 3, which 2 apparently is nothing. And I'm about to play Replicant. I've never played Replicant before, but Automata 1000% is probably in my top 10 games. The music's great. The depth of it is great. And I felt like they brought that with the raid systems. But the mechanics of the raid, it was they were able to add, I think, 2 bosses in it that were not included in the game. So it's like, for that one, they took parts they weren't able to do in the game and incorporated elsewhere, since they brought in the director and the composer from the Nier series into it, which is very smart to do. But it's still fun. Like, it feels overwhelming at first because it's 24 people and you're like, oh my God, versus like the Evilus raids when you're fighting Thunder God Sid, you have like the 2 or 3 platforms you're trying to move around and avoid and everything else with his sword swipes and everything else. This one was more of just, here's your giant enemy you're fighting. It's got its 3 or 4 mechanics that it's going to take you around the arena, learn it, and go. It's just got a huge health bar. So it Nier felt like a giant 8-man raid with 24 people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas Evilus felt like more of a WoW-esque 24-man raid.
Well, on the mechanic stuff, I definitely agree that it's gotten better. As I say, I'm not the biggest fan of the Nier series, and that's personal preference. I think there's probably tons of people. I know tons of people who call me an idiot for not liking it. But I will say mechanically, there's a lot of mechanics in the Nier Alliance raids have introduced. But I'd love to see more content. I don't know if you've actually finished the Nier, so I won't say the name.
I have.
Oh, you have. The final boss of the final Alliance raid, the tower.
Dragon Guard all over again.
Yeah, not even that, but the mechanic that you have the arena and you have stuff coming under the arena. That was so cool. Like
that was cool. Even them putting the white and black circles, just like from the game, the mini game that you had to put in there. I thought that was very good. The hacking capabilities they put in there too, I thought was really cool. But the piece where the building just flies up from underneath you is like, oh my god, it's just got you looking everywhere trying to figure things out.
I think they should definitely add that into like the other raids, like normal raids, because a lot of the thing that people complain about is the arena's been boring because it's just a circle of a square. And honestly, I don't know what they want really. What more can you freaking do? But having mechanics underneath you that you've really got to like turn your camera to look down. That was such a cool idea, and I hope that's what I feel like Alliance Raids should be: is introduce mechanics like that, gauge how people respond, and then introduce it into the more because 24-man content really is like obviously there's mechanics that can screw you over, but it really is the easier content out of the raid. Like stepping stones, like normal raids are harder than Alliance raids, but Savage raids make normal raids look like a cakewalk.
Correct.
Because it's very much Alliance raids are big bullet sponge bosses, as I call them. They're just massive pulls, but then they only have a few mechanics that you just have to learn, and once you've learned them, you're sorted. And then it's just an endurance of what can you deal with. And that's one thing they actually did really well with Nier, I'll give you, is the health on a lot of the bosses didn't feel too overbearing. They felt like they went down in a decent enough time. A lot of this is content Slandy hasn't done yet, so I need to get him into it at some point so he understands what. But you WoW raid, you know what it's like. The more people there are, of more health.
Yep.
That's one of the things about 24-man content that puts me off. Is it's not just that there's other people there and there's the people debuff, as Mr. Happy and Sly call it, where you can't, people are idiots. But it's just the fact that the bosses feel like they take so long because there's only a few mechanics, especially if you're a more hardcore raider like myself, where I do Savage content. Alliance raids barely touched me. When Delube and Resonate came out and people were like losing their minds about how hard it was and like how they couldn't clear, it was easy to me. These mechanics are stuff I've already seen. And Alliance raids I feel is like the place where you can experiment with mechanics because it's easier, because there's only a few, it's easier for them to figure out. And in Mist of the Realm, I hope we definitely get more of that. But also just the story of Mist of the Realm is something that has enticed me more than any other Alliance raid we've got thus far. Like, I'm a big fan of 12 and Tactics, and so Evil East was like really good, cool. But Mist of the Realm it's Final Fantasy 14 story, and people are always putting like 6 or 7 at the top of the Final Fantasy list. 14 is mine by miles. And so having this raid, like with Pandemonium is, I feel like Pandemonium will reference more, but it could, again, just be very 14 based. Mist of the Realm is definitely 14 based looking, and I'm interested to learn more about that.
I agree.
And I definitely, one of my big curiosities is, do we actually fight 12? If so, that's going to mess up so many RP as RP, because there's all these people who believe in Menfina because they're keepers of the moon, Mikate, and so it's going to be interesting to see how it messes them up. The next thing is obviously male Vieira. And then the announcement that they are definitely working on giving us female Hrothgar, which is actually the bigger announcement to me personally.
Same, I agree.
My big hope for female Hrothgar is that they look more like the Ronso from 10. One of my disappointments with male Hrothgar is they're a bit too burly for me. Like, I get why using the Rogadin skeletal structure, really. But I was really hoping for those kind of like still quite burly but taller kind of Ronso, like Kamari, one of the coolest characters in 10.
Yeah, when they announced it, I think the female Hrothgar piece, I think, made me much more excited for it, with being able to see the lionesses and everything of it. Bunny boys are cool. You knew it was coming, considering how many people wanted it pretty much after the Vieira was announced originally. But the Hrothgar have been around for a while. And I'm glad that they're finally bringing the female form of them, especially because, like you said, they're one of the cooler characters in 10. But I'm interested in seeing how the design, the aesthetics of them all. I don't want them to be burly and everything else. Give them like a proper lioness view, basically. But I'm excited for both of them. Either way, it's new races for people to play with, to role play with, whatever they want to. But the Hrothgar, especially, I'm excited for.
Personally, I don't think I'll change. Like, you know, the male Vieira and female Hrothgar, I'm interested in both to see around the world. I'm not
going to change, though.
I'm very fond of my character Shizwell. Don't get me wrong, I've fantasied, but one of my big problems with Vieira and Hrothgar, hairstyles, helmet lacking. The big one for Hrothgar specifically over Vieira is you have to fantasia to change your hairstyle.
Yeah.
With Vieira, you actually have some options. With Hrothgar, it's linked to your head, so you actually have to pay just to change your appearance, which I think is bullshit.
Which is a bummer, but whatever. Yeah.
So whilst I'm happy for male Vieira and the announcement of female Hrothgar, I definitely hope they sort stuff like that out soon.
I'm sure it will. That's why, because I mean, you're not. Probably when the female Hrothgar come out, more than likely that change will happen, considering what it takes to change the cosmetics of that race.
Yeah, it would seem a bit weird for them to release female Hrothgar and be like, "Oh, now we've got to work on letting them have more hairstyles." It's like, why don't you just do that?
Exactly.
Planning to release them.
Yeah, exactly.
But I definitely think male Vieira is going to be a big thing for a lot of people. I know a lot of streamers I watch are like hype as hell, and I know people who be hype as hell. And as I say, for me personally, it's not a big thing, but I think it's a good choice for them to do. And one of my best parts about this is that they said they weren't doing any more races, and I said and like people are taking male Vieira and female Hrothgar into that they won't be doing any more races. And I've said for ages, they said this about Aura, that they'll release Aura and then they're never doing more races, and then we got these two. I feel like we'll get male Vieira, we'll get female Hrothgar, we won't see another race for like 5 expansions, and then they'll be like, surprise, we actually made another race.
We'll see something. I think that, I mean, there's still a lot in the Final Fantasy world, not just in 14, but just in the lore of Final Fantasy of race-wise and aesthetics and looks and everything else, that I think we'll end up getting at least 1 to 2 more that we could play as, per se. But I'm excited for both of them. The bunny boys are going to look good, just like their female counterparts. They're going to be jacked pretty much. But the female Hrothgar, I think, is the one I'm most excited to see run around as, because then you're going to have people acting like Lion-O and Chitara from freaking Thundercats at that point. So I'm just excited for it either way.
I think it's a good choice, especially considering like when they first released female Vieira and male Hrothgar. As a 1.0 player, I had PTSD like crazy. I was like, what a bad decision. Because I don't know if you knew, but in 1.0, I can't remember what it was specifically. I think it was female Rogadin and male Mikate didn't exist. You couldn't play them.
Yeah, there was a lot of limitations.
Yeah, and people were not happy. So they sorted it out from Reborn. And I was like, well, whew, at least they won't make that mistake again. And then the announcement came, female Vieira and male Hrothgar. I was like, oh, this is not going to age well. And ever since the announcement, there's always been like the advocation for get us male Vieira and female Hrothgar.
Yeah.
So it's a good move. As I say, for me personally, it's not going to affect a lot, but I'll be glad to see them about. I'll be glad to see what people can do with them. The next thing is the beast tribes we're getting, or at least one's a definite beast tribe, the other one's an assumption. The Matanga are the first one. The Star Wars race, as some people are calling them.
Yep, it is the Star Wars blue elephant. That's exactly what it is.
I'm interested.
I can't wait to see Dumbo run around.
One of the things that I'm interested to see about these is, as a lore nerd, the Matanga actually like just detest the Aura. So if you're an Aura Warrior Light, I'm wondering if you'll get like unique options for this.
That'd be cool. I'm sure they'll probably have some sort of dialogue options at that.
There's not a lot to say about it. I reckon this will be a combat beast tribe.
Yeah.
Personally. I'm interested to see what mounts we get. We're not going to get an elephant because we already got one from the snake people. So it'd be interesting. I definitely think they're Favnarian based with how they're dressed.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, as I say, I reckon that these might have something to do with the Mega Sisters. Like,
yeah,
not so much as the beast tribe itself, but like narratively in the story.
Yeah, because their garb is very similar as far as the colors and everything else.
Yeah. There really isn't a lot I can say about them until we get them in the game.
Yeah. They look good though, and I'm glad they're adding more beast tribes to it though.
Oh yeah. One of the things I do hope they do this expansion, because they've not done it for Shadowbringers, is they do one of the storylines where it connects all the beast tribes, because we didn't have that with Shadowbringers, not really.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Which very well could, especially with this. Think about it. With this one wrapping up everything, I feel like they're going to be connecting so many threads from prior expansions. It's like, oh my god, this is Game of Thrones all over again. Like, what's going on? So I'm excited for it. Especially with, I mean, they could end up being able to tie them into other beast tribes where their relations are and history and everything else. So, no telling.
And then we got the Loporites, which are the Hummingways from Final Fantasy IV.
They're basically a potato and a Vieira put together.
That is a questionable decision on whichever scientist chose that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to say the least.
My personal belief, don't know about you, Rick, as a long-time Final Fantasy player, these are going to be on the moon, in my opinion.
I could totally see that being the case. Looking at the way they're designed and the way they look and everything else, 100%, I think they're going to be a moon character. As
for what they'd be, we haven't even got a definite say that these are a beast tribe, but I reckon these will be like a crafter gatherer beast tribe.
Yeah.
And that's one thing we don't know the third beast tribe yet, or if this is the beast tribe, so it could be 2 more beast tribes. But I definitely hope they keep with what they've done in Shadowbringers and keep a crafter beast tribe, a gatherer beast tribe, and a battle beast tribe. I thought that was a really good decision.
Yeah. They look cool. I'll be interested in seeing how it ties things in as far as like missions and stories and what they can do. But they look cool, but I think they're going to be the moon. I think you won't see them till end of the game.
Yeah.
Like end of.
Oh, like post game.
I wouldn't say post, but I would think like you're close to level 90 and then you can run into them kind of thing.
Might see a few evil ones around the open world, like screw you.
Yeah, you'll see him as like part of a story, but I don't think you'll be able to start doing beast tribe stuff of it until you're the latter part of the 80s leveling.
Well, as you say, they look cool. I'm interested to see the story because honestly, the beast tribes I think have some really funny stories.
They do.
Personally, I've loved the Qatari and the Namazu. The Namazu in Stormblood were just
Namazu were great.
So good. I went into it.
It was goofy.
I went into the Namazu questline detesting Namazu because of the Stormblood story. I thought they were little douchebags and I wanted to punt them. But then I did the Beast Tribe and it was so funny. It was just the perfect Beast Tribe. And to this day, they're some of my favorites in the game.
It's good.
But that's really it about the Beast Tribes. And then obviously we'd still miss a third one. I was actually hoping it would be Lunarians and that they'd be like freaking Alligans who were trapped on the moon and it's Lunarians from 4.
That may be something probably coming in maybe post 6.0, if anything else.
Yeah. Well, it's news, we'll find out down the line. And then our other next point is Anima. Just the coolest. I am so happy this is in. I was actually disappointed we didn't get Anima as a Sin Eater. I went into
Yeah, I
Shadowbringers.
thought we were going to.
Yeah, because she looks like a Sin Eater.
Yeah.
She really like. I actually predicted the way Sin Eaters looked a long time before Shadowbringers was even announced. Obviously I didn't call them Sin Eaters, but I always thought that we'd have like some light version of the Void Scent, even
Yeah.
from like Around Reborn, because I did the Amdapori and stuff like that. So I always figured that we'd get like a light Void Scent, and like in my brain I was like, how will Square Enix do a light Void Scent? Well, Anima's very much meant to be like this angelic designed, has a lighter kind of meant to be a protector, but still looks very evil. So Anima was like the basis of how I designed light scent back in the day in my head, way before Shadowbringers came along. And obviously Shadowbringers came along and Sin Eaters looked like that. Like the first boss of Holminster's Switch was very what I'd pre-imagined years ago. So the fact that we didn't get Anima then was shocking to me. So I am so glad we're getting her as what looks like a Terminus beast.
As I say, Anima could also fall in line with Pandemonium, if possibly. If we're going to go back to the discussion of possibly, demons and angels and that kind of thing, Anima already has that look, so could fall into it, especially with the top and the bottom of Anima as boss situations.
I definitely hope part of a boss fight, like it splits your team in two, and you have to.
I agree that I almost treat it like a Octopath Traveler situation where the true final boss of that game was actually split into two parts, and you actually had to split your entire party into two sections to take out the boss, which I think would be awesome to do if that's the case.
They could have it as like you get a debuff or something, and you have to go to a certain realm, either the south, the under realm or the top realm, and fight. That'd be cool. I personally think Anima is going to be a trial, one of the trials we fight. Like
that'd probably be more like it, more than like at that point. I mean, I'd love to see it as a raid boss, but I agree. I think it'd be a trial.
I'm hoping it's the first trial. I reckon like this is like the Susano, and then whatever we have.
It's gotta be the beginning.
But it is just. What more can you say? Look at the picture alone. It's such a cool boss.
Anima looks great.
I am curious as to the story of it though, because obviously in Final Fantasy X, Anima is Seymour's mum who's sacrificed herself for Seymour. So how is this going to be involved? And all we know is it looks freaking awesome. I hope they do some cool mechanics with it. I definitely think there's some. If they don't do some really cool mechanics with this, it's a missed opportunity, in my opinion. There's so much they could do, especially with, as you say, the upper part of it and the down side. I want to know how we survive getting one shot by it, because in obviously Final Fantasy X it has that one shot ability.
I'm sure there will be some mechanic in it that could be an insta wipe that they will have at that point, where you'll have to have it set up that way.
That would be really cool. And then the other, obviously, like summon looking thing that we have is the Mega Sisters. I couldn't get like the actual proper picture from the thingy, but this is what they look like. As I say, they look very much like the smallest one looks like a Lalafell, the tallest one looks like an Alazen, and God knows what the middle one is. But they don't look like a primal in the sense of how we know primals. Like they don't look like their own independent being. They look like they're people dressed up as these things.
And it very well could be that they progress story going through. They could be the cause of whatever raid or trial situation you go through as an encounter. They could be almost like a Kefka fight from Omega, where dance around and had all these different abilities and then could transform later kind of situation. They have many different ways they could spin with the Maga Sisters.
It could be like a Shiva situation again. Could be we fight these as normal people, and then, as you say, they transform into something different, and that could be the more what we know as the Mega Sisters, the very insectoid-looking things.
Yeah, it very, very well could be the case, because I mean the design they have for it right now looks very, or at least the images that you've seen, quote unquote, are very Final Fantasy IV for the Maga Sisters at that point.
I reckon, well, as you say, it's Final Fantasy IV. I still reckon I think they're going to be Favnair, something to do with Favnair. Again, the clothing looks very Favnarian, and it could be.
I agree.
We know that there's like statues of the Mega Sisters in
in one of the areas.
So it could be that these are like priestesses who are like, again, as I say, most of what I do is fairy crafting. Could be they're like priestesses that like worship the sisters, and they take the like highest priestesses take on their form or whatever.
That would be cool. I could see them doing that as well. Because if you see them as statues and everything else, it could be that, or it could be that they're as statues and you end up fighting them through trials and dungeons and everything else, and they're the end area of that port that you're going through. Either way, I'm down for them. I want to see. I feel like they're gonna have some sort of transformation, though.
Yeah, it just seems weird that they just this very they look like clothed people.
Yeah, unless they're just story progression as antagonists kind of thing, and then they do something at the very end. For all we know,
could be a dungeon boss.
Yeah,
but I feel like something as big as the Mega Sisters, I always thought they'd be a trial. The fact that if they are a dungeon boss, it'll actually be a little disappointing to me, in honesty.
Yeah, I agree.
Moving on from that, another big point is the Oceanic Data Center, which is actually really big. I think this is such a good thing. Obviously, it doesn't affect me personally. I'm not from Australia. I'm not going to be going on it. But I remember before we had European servers, and it was something we were begging for. Oh my god, I don't know how the Australian people do. I am in Europe and play on European servers, and I still bloody hate the ping. So, as someone who played in 1.0, and 2, when I played in the Realm Reborn, not having the freaking European servers, trying to defeat Titan and freaking American servers as a European, it was horrible. It was just like, I'm out of this. Yeet off the edge.
I have 2 or 3 guys or people in my community from like New Zealand, Australia area, and when they announced that, they were like, "Oh my god!" Like they flipped out because the ping for them is just they love the game, but it is murdering them. And now being able to have that, they're like, "Oh, this is a godsend." Like they're like, "We can actually play the game and enjoy it at this point."
Well, I can relate to that because I have a friend who's always like, why don't you come onto Crystal? I can't remember what server they're bloody on. It's one of the Crystal ones, because obviously the RP community in this game is very American. And they're like, why don't you come onto this server and then we can RP together? And I'm like, because I actually want to play the game and I don't want to ping. So I know what it's like to want, especially as I say, as a Realm Reborn player, I know what it's like to want a data center for yourself.
It's been much needed, and I'm glad they're doing it.
And not just that, but like for the longevity of a game, this is such a good step.
Yeah.
I think this could be just the beginning of many new data centers, and if they do that, that's such a good choice. Like obviously it costs money; these don't come out of nowhere. I'm not oblivious to the costs and that lot, but if they want to keep people interested, people need their data centers.
Yeah.
And another good thing, actually, with the introduction of the Oceania data center, is it doesn't even mean you've got to be parted from your friends. Because obviously, another big thing is we got data center travel coming up.
Thank God.
Which I, as a fan of your channel myself, that to me is awesome. When you're doing your streams, I'll come over and help you out with content. Like,
that is my biggest thing as a, I guess, community manager, whatever you want to call it at that point, having a community and having friends and people that I know that play this game, and we're all scattered everywhere. Because I'm on Primal, and I know people that are in Ether. I know people that are on Crystal. I know some people that play over in the European servers. And it's like, for me, when they announced it, the thought of all of us now being able to come together and not having to worry about alts or leveling, or you can take your favorite tune, my favorite tune, let's go raid, let's have fun and help each other. Like, I know we don't know the full extent of it, but if we can just raid and do trials together, I'm fine with it. That's the biggest point of being able to bring the community together and have fun.
I mean, hell, even just visiting to sit in someone's house on their chat, like, I'm cool
with it.
Yeah. And as I said, especially for us RPers, this is so big. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that, like, there's a lot of fear on Omega at the moment that all the freaking Balmung people will come over here. One, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Balmung are going to stick on Balmung and act like the entitled Gits they are, who think they're kings of RP and expect everyone
Yeah.
But there's the thing of, as I say, I have friends who RP on American servers because there's there's way more people over there, and the way it's organized is a lot it's hard to explain how RP works, like on the organizational basis.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Omega is very people stick in the friend groups and they go to houses, and the only time people really mix is during this thing we have called tavern roulette, which is where at random someone's house is picked and everyone goes there for the night.
That's cool. That's fun.
But it's still very closed. Whereas on Balmung and Matthias and other servers in America, it's you just wander the city and you can just find people RPing. Like, it's much more extroverted, to say easiest, on America, whereas it's very introverted on Europe. So for me, that would be great because I can just, if I'm feeling like RP, because I am a content first, RP second, which is very different to a lot of RPers. A lot of RPers RP first and content second. But I love my content, and that's why I wouldn't go to America. But it means I can just nip over, have a bit of RP, and then come back. And so even so long as I have my bloody ability to chat, if they stop you doing that on different data centers, it'll be stupid. But yeah,
I'm excited for it. Big time excited.
And one of the big things we know about the data center travel is we actually get it before 6.0. I think it will be 5.5.8, could be 5.5.7, but I think it's 5.5.8.
I think it's going to be 558 personally. I feel like the incident that when 5.5 came out where you had some people that couldn't leave after they traveled to a data center, or when you went to visit to help friends or whatever, there was that incident. I feel like something rolled by mistake when that update came out and it caused some of those hiccups to come through. But personally, I feel like it's going to hit at 5.5.8 because they're going to have to iron out all the kinks before 6.0. That's my guess.
Especially knowing how much of a travesty. I love Square Enix, but their server management on an expansion drop can be so Stormblood, especially. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but there was the meme that was known as Roban Extreme.
Yep.
Because you got to a certain point in the story, and then Roban had an instanced solo duty for you. But because so many people were trying to do it at the same time, people were trying to figure ways to get around it. They were like forming queues, and you wasn't allowed to talk to Roban until it was your point in the queue. Like, and I don't mean like a queue like people would make a poll.
Everybody waiting in line,
stand in line, it was just the worst. But it brings me hope that, like, the community actually tries. But obviously, you always had some people who skip the line.
True, of course.
But so I'm looking forward to data center travel, as you say. Communities coming together is just such a good thing.
Yeah, something that I'm shocked WoW has not tried to do. Because there have been a lot of people asking for that, but for being a major MMO and being able to actually bring it's almost like you treat it like crossplay and like Apex Legends. The entire community is now together and playing. It's similar to that. If they can get it to a certain point to where it doesn't matter where you are, you can play on each other's servers with your main character and have fun together with your friends, even though they started in Crystal and you're in Primal, and you both have level 80s, but you don't want to create an alt or anything. You have to worry about it at that point. You now can do that. And I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I agree. I have basically the same thing going on my Twitch channel, where I play with some people from the US as well, and from Australia at times as well. The only problem for us is the ping we're getting. But if I want to play with someone over there, I have to survive the ping, of course.
Yeah, or they can survive it. At that point.
In turns, come up with a schedule.
Exactly.
So, I can feel the need for it, especially for the communities around. It will be a big deal for them.
Yeah, I agree.
As you say, though, Rick, it's very much game like with Apex, like being able to play cross-platform. Just in this day and age, I feel like stuff like this, like data center travel, cross-platform, all this kind of stuff should just be in more games. Like I am currently playing Dragon Quest Builders 2, and I wanted to get some friends in it, and I was looking on the internet to see if it's cross-platform, and so many of these websites are like, yeah, it is. So I managed to talk my friend into getting it, and he has it on his PC because we thought it was cross-platform. It didn't matter. He doesn't own a PlayStation, you see, whereas I play everything on PS4.
Okay.
My laptop's a pile of ass, so I can't play anything on a PC. So when stuff's cross-platform, it's great for me because literally like 99% of my friends are PC gamers.
Yeah.
And we got into Dragon Quest Builders 2 and then found out it wasn't cross-platform, and it just broke my heart. It's like,
yeah, it's a bummer. Like
in this day and age, why?
Same with Outriders as well. It was announced as a cross-platform, but it had so many cross-platform issues at launch.
Server issues.
Yeah.
I feel like that's more on the developer side thing.
Yeah,
like they weren't,
of course.
They amped it up, and they didn't develop it like and prepare it as it should have been.
Yeah.
Because they had it during the betas, but I don't think it was ever really pushed to its limits. But then you have other companies like Arc System Works for their Guilty Gear series. It's cross-platform between PlayStation and PC, and it's flawless. There's now huge talks of NetherRealm Studios with Mortal Kombat to have it all cross-platform, so you can fight anyone on any platform at that point. Switch, PC, PlayStation, whatever, you can play them. But Apex, I feel like, has been Fortnite did it with Epic Games and all that, and I hate Fortnite. Shout out to everybody that does enjoy it. You're awesome. But I am not a big fan of it. It did very well. Like they handled it well. The servers were good. Its stability was good. Apex then followed suit with it, and it's been flawless. Like I played with my friends on PlayStation and console, and it feels like we're sitting in the same room playing together.
Yeah.
Like, it's that good.
Yeah.
And if Square can do it with this and have it be the first major MMO to implement something like this, I think it's going to be huge, and it can make a lot of other developers look at how they're doing things going forward.
Yeah, totally.
Well, Final Fantasy is always, as we know, it's always been cross-platform between PlayStation and PC.
Correct. But if you can open it up to, if it enables it to open to Xbox and other ones, and then have it where you can play it on any data center,
yeah,
awesome.
Because that's one of the big things that's always sold Final Fantasy 4. I mean, I'm a Final Fantasy fan as it is, so Final Fantasy just needed to be called Final Fantasy for it to sell it to me. But
pretty much.
But at first, like I wasn't like majorly. I was still playing WoW when I first came to Final Fantasy 14, and so it was a struggling act. But then when I started to realize I could play with my PC friends, but be on my PlayStation, which was my preferred, because I can play World of Warcraft on my laptop, but it plays like ass. And I've long since quit World of Warcraft because of World of Warcraft. But when I realized that I could play on my PlayStation, which can run the game better for me because my PC's worse.
Yeah, it works.
And then I can play with my friends who are on PC. Like, that was such a moment of change for me.
Yeah.
And just as you say, opening to communities to play together, no matter be it cross-platform, cross-data center, the more people you can connect, the better. I mean, my missus is American. Her brother is one of my greatest friends. He's American. If I can get more people from other countries who are my friends or, relationships or out like that to play this game that I love and I'd love to share with other people, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're striving to do, and I think Yoshi wants I would assume that the developers and specifically Yoshi wants us all to be able to play together, and I think this is a huge push for it at that point.
Definitely.
I do remember when just the BattleNet function was announced for World of Warcraft, where hey, you can play together, but you don't even have to be on the same server anymore. It was such a big step at that time, and
The final thing we really have to talk about on Final Fantasy 14, barring any questions, is I feel it right that we should announce the release dates for Endwalker. It's 23rd of November for the actual game, which is way too long if you ask me. Early access, so for those who have pre-ordered the game, it's 19th of November, and that will be me definitely, and I will be streaming that straight away. And then 5.5.5, quite interestingly, is on Tuesday, which today for us is Sunday. I don't know when this video is going up. That depends on Slandy, but there's your day. If it comes out Tuesday, go play 5.5.5 now. Yeah, all of those, just November. Why is it so long away?
I think we blame COVID at that point. I think it's just them having delays on. You got to think about voice acting and anything else being added. It's taking more time, and it sucks. It's that far out, but I'm cool with it as long as the game is where it needs to be. Of course, it comes out for us here in the United States the week of Thanksgiving. So now I can push myself away from the table after gorging myself and go play Final Fantasy. So it's even better. Yay, kiddo's taking a nap. I can go play the game for a little while my wife takes a nap. So perfect. Awesome.
Well, 6 point. I actually, whilst it hurts me in my heart that it's November, it gives me time to finish what I'm going to try and do on FF, which is
exactly.
I'm trying to finish every side quest in the game so that my map is
boy. Yeah.
I'm
Good
getting
luck.
Oh, I'm already all halfway through Heaven's Ward. I've already done all of Aran
Awesome. That's awesome.
So, any questions from either of you towards any?
Nothing really, man. I'm super excited for it. I'm looking forward to what the future of the game holds, what the future of the franchise holds, and what Yoshi P and the rest of that team brings us. Bring it on. I'm excited for it. I'm glad I got into it, and I wish I got into it earlier.
Which is actually a question I have for you, actually. Given that it's basically the same team, Final Fantasy 16, are you intending to play that?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, good.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the Heavensward team making it. The only Final Fantasy I've not played all the way through was 13 and 15. And I'm still progressing them, just not like I did when they first came out.
Yeah.
They just didn't capture me. But 14 has now taken its place. I know it's bad. It's put itself as my number 2 favorite Final Fantasy behind 7, just because 7 has such a big point in my life, like where it came in and what it represents for me as far as enjoying video games and everything at that time. 7 is my number 1 game of all time. 14 is now probably in my top 5, and my number 2 Final Fantasy. It's jumped ahead of Final Fantasy Tactics.
From hearing you during your Ishgard raid series, that's definitely a big big accolade.
It is a very, very well done game. And yes, the beginning is a grind and a buff, but what it sets up is well worth it.
That's all the questions. So I'd like to thank obviously you, Rick, for coming on. It was terrifying asking you if you'd come on, and I was so happy.
Dude, don't reason. You're good, and I'm thank y'all for having me. I had a blast. I mean, no reason to freak out about it.
It was nice to geek out with someone who has as much love for the game.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
And trust me when I say I could geek. If you gave me the time of day, we'd be here till like next week.
My wife would walk downstairs and be like, "Are you done? Like, you got to make dinner." Okay, cool, that's fine.
Would you like to let people know where they can find you? Obviously, we'll include it in the description, but
yeah, certainly, yeah. I'm here. You can find me here on YouTube, of course. Ricktator here on YouTube. Probably provide a link considering I don't have an exclusive tag since there's a ton of Ricktators apparently. But on Twitch, I'm at twitch.tv/the_Ricktator. I stream Monday through Thursday, 9:30 p.m. Central till late, normally about 2 a.m. Mostly because, like I said, part-time gamer, full-time dad. Once the family goes to bed, I end up gaming and hanging out with the community and everything else. But we have a blast over there. The YouTube channels for more reactions and discussions and reviews and that kind of thing. And then Twitch, we play a miscellaneous style of games, whether it's, Overwatch, Apex Legends to Final Fantasy 14 and Mortal Kombat. So we're all over the place, but would love to see you stop by sometime and say hello.
And as he says, we'll fill his descriptions we'll fill his links in the description, so anyone watching, just go find him. As for us at Pretty Casual Gaming, we have our next stream in about 2 weeks, and we'll actually be doing that as our first live podcast. We'll put a Twitch link in the description, obviously, and you'll be able to find us there at the time. I don't know what day it'll be yet. I will probably put it in the description itself, or I'll comment or something like that. Or it'll be in our Discord, which you can find as always on the description. It's in every single one of our videos now, so it shouldn't be hard to find it and join for further updates. I myself, as I said in a previous video, will be hopefully streaming stuff properly for the first time in years. Actually playing games, and that will be on this channel. I won't be doing it on my own channel. You can find Slandy at his Twitch.
Yeah, Twitch TV Slanderman, and then I have my small YouTube channel where more or less upload my VODs, more or less. Yeah, that's where you can find me, and links will also be in the description.
And hopefully, with nothing going wrong, we will have a third permanent member for the Pretty Casual Gaming podcast, which will be a guest that you've already seen on our channel before. That's about it. So thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you in our next video. Bye, YouTube.
Bye.